It was the biggest case of my career, and one of the biggest cases in Middle Georgia.
I remember that.
I haven't seen a bigger one since.
Welcome to VP Leadership Podcast, where real leaders are made. I'm Bill Purvis, your host, and today I've got a guest for you that I know you're going to enjoy. His name is Max Wood. Max is the former U.S. Attorney for Middle Georgia. He was put in that position by President Bush back in 2001. On top of that, he's been with the Justice Department attaché in Baghdad, Iraq in the years 2005 and 2006. He's a graduate of the University of Georgia Law School. He's been a former prosecutor and Judge Advocate General's Department there for the U.S. Air Force. He's also a colonel in the Georgia Air National Guard. He's a board member for a wonderful organization that we support and that I love. It's basically called the American Foundation for Relief and Reconciliation in the Middle East. What they do is they provide humanitarian relief and they do rescue and all that's necessary to help refugees from Baghdad. And so I'm so grateful for the ministry that he has and what all he's got to offer. We've got a lot to talk about today, so let's get started.
So we know as Christians there's going to be struggle and there's going to be a victory.
That's right.
The book of Revelation emphasizes that in a very graphic way. The game may not go the way we expect it to, but we're going to win. So we went. I was a state prosecutor for a number of years, and then I was in private practice for a number of years. And was very good at trying cases. I'm a good trial. I'm a little too old now, but in my younger day, in the Air Force and as an assistant district attorney and in private practice, I was very good at trying cases.
Yeah, that's the reputation I've heard of you, Max. I mean,
thank you.
From people that know that we're friends have mentioned that you are outstanding there.
So. Well, thank you. And it helped me, that and political connections helped me to be appointed by President Bush's administration to be the United States Attorney for the Middle District of Georgia, which is the Attorney General's representative for this region. And there are 93 of us, and I used to joke that we were a more elite group than the U.S. Senate because there's 100 U.S. senators. So
that's true.
I think I was the only person that felt that way, but it made for a good joke.
That's right.
And so I did that for just under 8 years and had two life-changing experiences there, Bill. I
want to hear that.
A cult leader named Malachi York. He was a personality, religious cult, kind of an African-American version of David Koresh.
Right.
He got to pick which women he wanted. And one of the things I learned about cult leaders in studying him and getting ready to prosecute him, and I did try that case. Myself, which was something else.
And that was a big case.
It was the biggest case of my career, and one of the biggest cases in Middle Georgia.
I remember that.
I haven't seen a bigger one since. But one of the things I learned about cult leaders is the first thing they do is they start diminishing the importance of family. They diminished the importance of family. That he made the men live in one dorm and the women live in one dorm and the children live in another dorm. And he decided when you could meet up with your spouse.
Wow.
Yeah. And when you could be with your parents and diminishing the role of parents in a group think environment with parenting. And we prosecuted him. He is still in prison and will be for the rest of his life.
Wow.
And then I went to Iraq. I had remained in the Air Force Reserves and was a colonel by this time. I was getting kind of old, and I was a colonel in the Air Force Reserves in addition to being United States Attorney.
Right.
And so I went to Iraq to represent the Department of Justice. So that's my background. Then I met you. I ran for public office, met you, was unsuccessful, and then I've been enjoying government service and a lot of charity work ever since.
Yeah. Now you were involved even when you were in Iraq, and as an attorney there, you were involved a little bit there with or knew the inside information on the Saddam Hussein trial and all that, right?
Well, I wasn't involved in the trial itself. I was involved in the logistics surrounding the trial.
Yeah.
And a lot of the work in maintaining the facilities
Right.
I oversaw a lot of I oversaw all of the marshals that did the security for the trial. So I was on the periphery of the trial.
Right.
And I was able to watch a day of the trial, but there was another group that had the mission of the trial itself. My primary mission was rebuilding or modernizing, I should say, the Iraqi judicial system, the Iraqi prison system, and the Iraqi police system.
Yeah.
And I had oversight responsibility for the marshals, the U.S. Marshals in Iraq, and that's who provided the security for the Saddam Hussein trial inside the courtroom.
Right.
The military was in charge of the security of Saddam until he got into the courtroom or courthouse. Right. And then the State Department had the oversight of the actual attorneys. So it was a team effort with military, State Department, and Justice Department. So my role was just with the U.S. Marshals. Yeah. But I'll take that.
All right, yeah.
And they were nice enough to let me come watch the trial, because it wasn't open to the public. But it was that was a life-changing experience, Bill. Christianity, the Holy Spirit was very much alive in Iraq.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I have spoken about it in churches, and of course, it's now 15 years ago. But and I was obviously a younger man. But I could feel it. I could feel it. There was a tangible feeling, literally in the air, as I walked around Iraq. Wow. I've never felt that way anywhere else. And there was a lot of Christian activity underneath the radar screen. Men and women committing themselves to Christ there in Iraq. Yeah. Men and women rededicating themselves to Christ in Iraq. Wow. Yeah. Men and women, mainly men from third world countries, who were coming to work as security guards or food service personnel, who were having religious camp meeting style worship. There was a huge movement among Spanish-speaking security guards. Huge Holy Spirit revival movement among them. They were having camp meetings in the evenings every week on their days off, and a lot of spiritual activity with these Hispanic men who came from pretty dire circumstances to be security guards at the embassy. Yeah. And so a lot of stuff was going on. Yeah. And so I just feel like there was a reason for all that. Geopolitically, I don't know if we accomplished a whole lot or not, but
that's what I see. I noticed one of the big changes, I think, in the path that God brought you through is He sent you there on that assignment, the government assignment, and yet now things turned into a spiritual nature, and even birthed out of that both your passion and heart for the Iraqi people and refugees, and opened up ministries, and that's kind of what I want to ask you about today.
Okay. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I know that, and I know you from and through the great work that you do in your ministry right now. And I want you to tell us a little bit about that, and about the churches, and even about the people and the culture of Iraq, and just what all is going on. Because I even want our viewers to be able to go and Google and to find out and to support and to get involved. Because one of the best blessings we have is knowing that we can kind of support and help that. Because what you're doing right there is meaningful, but it doesn't get a lot of recognition.
Well, thank you very much for that. And I guess I took a long time to lead into the main point, but that's okay. You got to know where people are coming from.
That's right.
But in Iraq, I got exposed to God has a sense of humor. There was this English Anglican priest running around over there doing a lot of good things. And I met him, and he started wanting to help Iraqi Christians, and he restarted a church that had been started by the Anglican Church, and he had a Pentecostal background, which is interesting to meet an Anglican priest with a Pentecostal background.
That's right.
And he was just loads of fun to be around. And he was doing some magnificent work over there, and inspired a lot of us to help him.
Yeah.
And I began sending him money when I returned.
Mhm.
I cross-checked references, other people that had worked with him, make sure he was the real deal and that they
Right.
felt he was. And so I would send modest contributions to his organization,
Mhm.
which was in England. And I would send him an email just encouraging him about every 6 months. I would always send him something at Christmas. I always
Right.
just an email. I'd send him
Yeah.
an email at Christmas. I'd send him an email Easter, those kind of things, and let him know that I was praying for him and that other people that I had spoken to were praying for him. And I got word he was, and I told him, I said, if you ever come to Georgia, let me know. I never thought he would, but he did.
Wow.
So he came and he spoke at my church. I got to know him better. His name was Andrew White. I got to
Right.
know him a little better. And he said to me, I am forming an American group of advisors.
Mhm.
And we collectively told him, well, if you're going to do that, you need to form a 501c3 charity so we can help you raise money here in the
Right.
U.S. That was in about 2010 timeframe,
Okay.
2009, 2010. And by 2011, we had formed the American Foundation for Relief and Reconciliation in the Middle East. We
Right.
call it American FREME. We use the acronym FREME.
Mhm.
And since 2011, we have been steadily helping Iraqi Christians
Yeah.
in 4 places. We helped
Okay.
them in Baghdad with a church that had been started by the English in between the 2 world wars. It's
Mhm.
called St. George's Church. It is an Anglican church.
Yeah. In
Now, the Anglican
Baghdad.
Church does not centrally support churches in the Middle East, which is a little disappointing. But
Yeah.
so we have English Christians giving money, and then now American Christians giving money through our tax deductible contribution, American FREME.
Mhm.
And the website is americanfreme.org. American, then FRRME.org.
Okay.
And they can take a look at it.
Yeah.
We have a sister organization in England called Mosaic Middle East, and they are at mosaicmiddleeast.org.
Okay.
We are now putting about over $500,000 a year into programs in 4 areas: the church in Baghdad,
Okay.
refugee camps in Kurdistan, which is the autonomous region of Iraq,
Okay.
refugee work in Jordan.
Mhm.
We built a facility there. We renovated a building. We call it the Olive Tree Center because of the symbolism of the olive tree in the Middle East.
Right.
And it's a place for Iraqis to come and be Iraqi Christian refugees.
Wow.
Now that's a niche right there.
Yes.
Iraqi Christian refugee, but there's 50,000 of them in Jordan.
Really? Wow.
Iraqi Christian refugees to come and just be Iraqis.
Uh-huh.
Yes, they speak Arabic, and they speak Arabic in Jordan. Yeah, you know, and yes, there are some Jordanian Christians, but there were more Christians in Iraq than in Jordan.
Wow.
Prior to the fall of the Saddam regime, there was probably 2 million Christians in Iraq.
Mm.
And we don't know exactly how many are there now because in 2014, ISIS came through the northern area of Iraq.
Mhm.
And areas that had traditionally had a high population of Christians, and literally ran them out, murdered thousands of them.
Yes, that's what we don't hear about.
No, it was I often say it was a 2-3 day news story in the U.S. and now everybody's forgot about it.
Yeah.
But it's been a 6-7 year nightmare for these folks.
Wow.
6 years, 6-year nightmare now.
Wow.
So there are tens of thousands of them that are refugees in Jordan. We help them there. There's tens of thousands of them that are in refugee camps in Kurdistan, which is the autonomous region of Iraq. We are helping them there. And we are helping rebuild small businesses in the Nineveh, what is called the Nineveh Plain. Nineveh was the city where Jonah was ordered to go preach.
Yeah.
It was also the capital of the Assyrian Empire,
Mm-hmm.
which conquered the northern kingdom of Israel,
Right.
and then failed to conquer the southern kingdom of Israel because of the miracle the king that prayed all night long. Was it Hezekiah, Bill?
Yeah, Hezekiah. Yeah.
I think it was Hezekiah.
Yeah.
That prayed all night, and a miracle happened, and the southern kingdom was saved from the Assyrians.
Right.
The sin of the Hebrews continued, and eventually the Babylonians came and took the southern kingdom.
Yeah.
So all that history is intertwined with these people.
Yeah.
And we've read about it in Sunday school classes, and we forget that there are descendants from these people that went through that experience in the Old Testament.
Yeah.
So we're going back into the Nineveh area to rebuild small businesses, so that people can go back. In 2007, so 2014, ISIS comes to just literally destroys this area. It looks like Europe after World War II.
Wow.
But there's been no Marshall Plan like we did in Europe. No government-funded Marshall Plan. It was just there. It looks like a Mad Max movie.
Wow.
Seen from a Mad Max movie or some futuristic movie, and it's real for these people. So they left in 2014. In 2017, when ISIS was defeated by a coalition, including the United States, and frankly, after President Trump took over as president, they set about defeating these people. They changed the rules of engagement. They started bombing targets that they wouldn't bomb before, and that's where my military law background comes in. So I'm sensitive to that. And so we defeated ISIS militarily. About 20,000, and it's hard to count people over there. Between 15 and 20,000 Iraqis went back into this area. They left Jordan, they left Kurdistan, and they became the pioneers that went back into this area to try to rebuild. They were like Nehemiah bringing the Israelites back into the city of Jerusalem after the Babylonian exile had ended. Well, the Babylonian exile was 70 years, as you know. This exile was about 4 years, 3 years. So it was about a 3-year exile for these 15 to 20,000 people that came back. So that's the fourth area that we work in. And our budget is about $750,000 a year. We're totally transparent about our money. You can ask me any financial questions about how we spend money. And then the British Foundation is a little bigger. A little more bureaucratic. They have more staff. They're raising about $1 million a year. And they're older than we are and more established. And we work together so well. And we're constantly in communication with them. There's certain things we take the lead on, and certain things they take the lead on. We take the lead on. We put a staffer in Jordan, in Amman, Jordan, to work with the Iraqi Christian refugees in Jordan. But they help pay her salary, and they work with her and are in communication with her every week. They take the lead in the northern Iraqi area because they have a member of their staff that speaks Arabic. He can go there 2 or 3 times a year, check up on things. And it's frankly easier for a British person to get around that part of the world than for an American. It's just the truth. So they, and I include we when I'm talking about the British Foundation, they have made contacts with the pastors that went back to that area, and they are identifying families that have the capabilities and the track record of running small businesses. And a family that had a bakery, we have helped them restart their bakery. A family that had been in farming, we helped them build an indoor nursery. A family that was involved in a wheat factory, grinding up the wheat into what you use as flour. We helped them restart their business. A family that made took olive oil and made soap and olive oil from the olives. We funded them restarting their business.
How about that?
A honeybee keeper, which if you know anything about agriculture, that's very important to agriculture. The cross-pollination that it brings to agriculture is important, not to mention producing honey to sell. So we helped the honeybee operation start back up. One family was involved in the fish hatchery business. We helped them start their fish hatchery up. And all those have some connection to agriculture to help facilitate the lower prices of food, and to facilitate economic activity of selling. You know, I'll sell you my soap, you sell me your bread. And I'll sell you my olive oil, and you sell me your fish, and your vegetables. And so that has been going on about 3 years, and the British, with our financial support, have been able to finish approximately a dozen projects like that. They have an employee on the ground in northern Iraq. We have an employee on the ground in Jordan, and the only people that know the difference are the people that do the paperwork. They're there together, working together, and I'm just so proud to be a part of them. So again, the organization is called American Foundation for Relief and Reconciliation in the Middle East. We use the acronym American FREME, FRRME .org.
We'll post that on the screen too as well. So that
thank you. And your church has been, there are 3 churches, one in Macon, one in Fort Valley, which is just outside Macon, really kind of between Macon and Columbus, I guess. And then your church are the 3 biggest, your church is one of the 3 biggest contributors to our ministry. And we really, really appreciate it. And we always look forward to coming down and saying thank you. And we thank you for letting us say thank you, because I know you got a full slate when you have a worship service, but we love coming down there. We love the Saturday evening worship opportunity. That is so fantastic. An idea, and such a great environment. And
we have enjoyed having you. And one of the things is, and it's true, we always say you don't even have to come over and thank us, but you always do, and you're so gracious. But I'm amazed at the amount of ministry that you're doing that is so boots on the ground, so necessary, rebuilding. Because I can't even imagine, we live in America and we don't get it like you've seen it. But to be a refugee, to have to run in the middle of the night with your family for your life and take nothing with you, and they're out there with nothing. And your ministry has been the angel of God to them. You've been the help. You've been the one that's given them hope when the world, nobody recognizes what all you're doing. Doesn't get a lot of publicity. And I look at what you're doing and I said, man, you're right in there in the fire on the ground, and I'm grateful. Now, what's the spirit of the people that are out there that are the refugees now? Do they have more hope, or do they are they which direction they feel they're going?
I am so glad you asked that question. And the young lady that you met in December could answer that better. Helena Scott is her name, and she's an impressive young lady in her early 30s, just a very impressive young Christian woman.
Great heart for God.
Yes. They have gone through a roller coaster ride, but they could have easily, and I'm glad you gave me the chance to say this, they could have easily avoided all this if they just converted to Islam. Say, I'm an Islam. Yeah, sure. I'm a Muslim. Sure. Yeah. But they chose to run, and they chose Jesus over security. And there aren't a lot of Americans that have to do that.
No,
not very many at all.
That's
and they were in shock initially, but I've never heard any anecdotes about anyone losing their faith. They're frustrated. They're angry at ISIS. They're not angry at God. And I have to confess, there have been moments in my life when I've been angry at God. I'm not proud of it, but we go through bad times and we say, God, why is this happening? Well, He's got a plan. But they didn't do that. If they did, they haven't, said anything like that to us. They regularly praise God, and that is what they have clung to. And now with some rehabilitation efforts happening and them seeing the love of Christians from Columbus, Georgia, from New Hampshire, where Helena Scott is from Alabama, from wherever, to the tune of, in total since 2011, easily $4 million, maybe $5 of effort being spent on them. They're very uplifted, and they inspire our people. And the ones that are in Jordan are now interacting and interfacing with Jordanian Christian churches, both the traditional high church, Christian, kind of a Greek Orthodox, Syrian Christian, which is Catholicism, basically. And then, what I would call classic Catholicism, not only those high churches, but there's also a very active Pentecostal church there in Madaba that has just taken these people in and made them part of the family, but also allowed them to maintain their unique Iraqi background. So they are very, very inspiring.
Good.
They love Jesus. They love singing. They love worshiping. And they are proud to be Christians. And one of the phrases we use in our interaction with people like you is to say, keep in mind that these individuals are carrying around the DNA of the early church.
Yeah, that's
they
true.
are descendants of the people that Jonah preached to.
Yeah.
And those that were converted by Jonah, we don't know how many.
Yeah.
But we feel in our heart that a lot of those people that continued to be believers of whether it was Judaism or just believing in the one God, later found through the Apostle Thomas, as he came through that area on his way to India, was told that the Messiah had come.
Yeah.
And so they converted to Christianity. And there have been Christians in that area of northern Iraq ever since for 2,000 years.
Yeah.
The Christianity was there before it was in North America.
Yeah. Yeah.
Christianity was there before Roger Williams preached in New England.
That's right.
Christianity was there before John Wesley preached in Georgia. Christianity was there before 1492 when Columbus brought Christianity to the Caribbean.
Yeah.
So Christianity was there 400 years before Islam was there.
Yeah. Wow.
And so that needs to be said. And it's, if there's a great lining, a great silver lining in this great cloud, it has given us an opportunity to educate American Christians and English Christians, and any other country that wants to help out, of course.
Yeah.
That these folks have been there and maintaining our faith.
That's right.
In the face of persecution that would probably have wilted most American Christians.
Yeah.
And have held that faith stubbornly through thick and thin for literally 2,000 years.
Wow.
And
that's a great way to look at it. It gives you a different perspective when you see they're kind of closer to the root. They're more of the ancestors. It does. It really helps us to realize they're closer to much more than suffering, just like the New Testament. Now, are their lives still in danger to this day, even if they're refugees trying to go back? Or, I know they've lost everything, but are their lives still under threat?
I think any Christian in the Muslim-dominated Middle East is living with a certain degree of danger.
Okay.
And I think that is something that they understand from a very early age. And they make the choice to continue on.
Wow.
And that is just something that is a component of their life. And they accept it, and they can't change it overnight.
Right.
And they just prefer Jesus.
Yeah.
They'll take those chances. And but as a practical matter, it has improved. ISIS. People will often ask, well, isn't ISIS gonna rise up again? And I answer that question in front of small church groups and civic groups and things like that. An occasional interview like this in the media, I say that that ISIS was just the latest face of evil. Evil will always be with us. You can call it Nazism, you can call it fascism, you can call it communism, you can call it Al Qaeda, you can call it Taliban, you can call it ISIS, you can call it Hezbollah, you can call it Wahhabism, But it is evil, and it will always be with us. And it takes the form, a lot of forms, and it takes the form of an extreme version of Islam.
It's the
that is
same
not
source.
peace-loving.
That's
And
right.
so I just say ISIS was simply the newest face of evil.
Okay.
And there will always be evil. I
Yeah.
don't believe Jesus himself said that.
Right.
If he
Right.
didn't say it directly, he certainly implied it.
Yes.
It's implied through the scriptures. There'll always be evil with us until he returns.
Yeah.
So, but they are, as a practical matter, day-to-day life, much better off. Obviously, they are safe in Jordan. They are safe in Kurdistan.
Okay.
But there is a trade-off. If they're in Kurdistan, they're having to work at menial jobs in an area that's fairly expensive to live.
Yeah.
And they're in a foreign area. It's Iraq, but it's different culture. The language is different.
Right.
They're Arabs living in a Kurdish region.
So
we
the
used to call them
Christians,
Medes in the Bible.
right,
We now call the Kurds. And so
Okay.
it'd be like you and I living in Mexico.
right,
Great people, but it's not home.
right. And isn't it,
Then the ones that are refugees in Jordan, they are safe, but they cannot work. The Jordanian government is very, very good about taking in refugees. They deserve credit for that.
right,
But they will not allow, they manage immigration a lot better than we do in our country.
yeah,
My political statement for today.
that's-
But they bring them in, but they cannot work on the economy. It is definitely made clear to them, this is a temporary haven.
right,
You are welcome, but you are a foreigner in a foreign land, and you're welcome, but there are going to be rules. So they're physically safe in Jordan and in Kurdistan, but they're not home.
okay,
Then you've got the ones that are in Baghdad, they're home, but they're constantly in fear of violence from radical Islamists,
right,
and have been ever since the fall of Saddam. Ironically, they were not afraid during the Saddam era. Isn't that
Really?
interesting?
yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah.
Saddam kept a cap on radical Islam because it was a threat to him.
Yeah,
So they benefited indirectly from Saddam's suppression of radical Islam. But they are home, but they're not safe. But they accept that. It's a part of their life now post Saddam, and it doesn't stop them from coming to church. And one of the reasons we fund the medical clinic at the church in Baghdad is that those services are available to Muslims as well as Christians for free.
Wow.
And that is a great statement of Christian love.
Yeah.
And it's also a bit of an insurance policy as a practical matter. Who wants to, if I hear somebody's going to blow up my doctor's office,
Yeah. That's
I don't
right.
want my doctor
That's right.
being blown
That's
up.
right.
So I'm going to go tell somebody.
Yeah.
So that has been a very important dynamic of our ministry there in Baghdad.
Yeah.
And then finally, the group that is in the Nineveh area. Nineveh is like a state, like Georgia is in the United States. Nineveh is a province in Iraq. And in that Nineveh area, which is between Mosul and Erbil. It's south of Erbil, which is in Kurdistan, and north of Mosul, which is the second largest city in Iraq.
Okay.
And it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere, frankly.
Right.
But it's been a haven for Christianity for 2,000 years. It's a mixed bag. They're slowly going back there. They fear ISIS, but it's one of those components of their lives that they accept because they have chosen to want to go home. So you have some Iraqis want to go back. Some Iraqis don't ever want to go back.
Yeah.
They'd rather just be a refugee and be safe. And then I think what's going to happen, and one of the reasons we persist, is after, it's been 6 years now, when the reality that you're not, everybody wants to immigrate to America.
Right.
Or Australia or any English speaking country.
Yeah.
And they want to learn English. And we give them English classes at this Olive Tree Center. And we help them with the immigration paperwork at this Olive Tree Center in Jordan. And we give them classes to just kind of help take their mind off of the crazy, just fun classes, guitar classes, singing classes, art class, just to help the kids get their mind off the craziness that they're living in. And but once they start realizing that not everybody's going to be able to go to America, not everybody's going to be able to go to Australia, we think that of their own accord that they will choose to go back to Iraq, and we want to create that tipping point economically for them, so that when they come back, they know there's a job at the wheat factory, they know there's a job at the bakery, or they know that there's a job at any other small businesses that we're going to try to help start up. We're going to try to help start up a concrete factory. Now that's going to be expensive, but we feel like if we can get a concrete factory functioning there, then people can start rebuilding their homes a lot cheaper. Now that is if somebody wants to pray for something, pray that we can find the donations for that, because that's going to be $100,000 investment. Concrete factories aren't cheap, but we need one over there, so that these, their houses are built out of stone or concrete. So masonry work, there's not a lot of wood over there. So they build everything out of various form of stone, either natural stone or mixed up concrete or something like that. And we need to make that available locally, and not only finding the funds for it, but to make sure we find the right family to take over that business. Because that's going to have to be, that's a huge gift to give somebody. They're going to turn around and sell it to a Muslim family. We don't want to have any part of that. So we're really prayerfully pushing that out there. And we feel like that needs to be something that is a major one-time foundation donation. Some foundation. Rather than us collecting that kind of money and pushing it out, we feel like that needs to be a partnership with a foundation that's willing to say, we will take that risk with our funding. It's going to have to be a big foundation. So we're praying to find that wealthy foundation that will take that chance. And that's a huge check.
It is.
I'm not sure I would do that if I had that kind of money to donate. But it's if we work it right, Bill, we will be able to rebuild people's homes, literally rebuild their homes that they can't do right now.
Oh, I would hope. I'd hope one of our viewers, perhaps, and I hope all of them at least will pray. And I believe that the work you've done has been so impactful that my prayer is that God will raise up more. We just got to get more knowledge out there of what you're doing. Because what you're doing, I've served on boards before that have been, mission boards, and I've seen them have one or two areas where they're working at, but not a lot of fruit. But what I see from y'all is almost everything that you're doing, the favor of God's there, and it's changing lives. And it just needs much more marketing, advertising, notice, attention, to get people aware of it. And,
and we're not concerned about our size. We won't, we'll take any donation we want. We're not going to, but we have turned away a couple of donations when we felt that they had the wrong strings attached. So we're going to stick to our principles, but we can go places because we are smaller, and God's using that. We're not Samaritan's Purse, which is a tremendously good organization. We're not the Red Cross, which is a good organization. And we're not a international, large charity. I can name them all, or some. But guess what? Those folks aren't in the northern plains of Iraq, and we are. Because we're like the old Bear Bryant saying he liked his players agile and mobile. That's right. So we're agile and mobile.
That's right. You can get there faster and make a quick impact.
We can. We
can.
And we maintain a fairly large investment account. For that emergency purpose. We use the proceeds. We try not to touch the principal. We use the proceeds to supplement our budget every year. But we have a couple $100,000 in an account that if something really crazy happens over there, because the church was bombed in 2009. And we weren't formed till 2011. So the first thing I did when I was chairman in 2011 was we're going to put the first $100,000 that we raised in an investment account.
Yeah.
So that if anybody ever blows that church up again,
Right.
we can respond like that.
Yeah. Good.
And rebuild. So and so we've used that as an investment fund to grow money and use the interest and proceeds from those investments for our budget. And so we think that's divine inspiration there.
It is. That's just wise stewardship. That's
yeah.
Now let me ask you this: when those people too, when their faith, when they come to faith in Christ, for example, one of the greatest days I ever had in ministry at Cascade was one day I looked up and there were 2 Muslims that were giving their life to God.
Wow.
And there was also 2 people coming out of the Jewish faith giving their life to God.
Wow.
And in our baptistry was a Hindu lady being baptized. And I went home that day and said, from this point, I could have gone to heaven at that moment. It's the best day of my life.
Take me.
Yes. And then the Hindu lady gave me her story, and she said, Pastor, for 3 weeks, she said, I gave my life to God 3 weeks ago, and I called my parents over in India, and she said, and they said, if you follow through and are baptized, we're gonna bury you here. You're dead to us. No more Christmas, no more Thanksgiving, no birthdays, no relationship. And she thought long and hard before she was baptized. So after she was baptized, she was cut off. The good news is it was only 5 years. 5 years later, her father called her and said, I miss my daughter. And they began a relationship where she shared the gospel with him and things like that before he died.
Wow.
But I know that over here, if a person comes to God over here, they don't have to cross over a lot of those life-threatening, situations or give up or lose a lot. For those believers there, when they step out of Islam or away from an Arabic heritage to come to faith in Christ, what does it cost them? What do they do?
Cost them everything worldly. Just like your story about the Hindu lady, they lose their family. They basically have a bullseye on their back. Mm-hmm. And candidly, some of the Christians are skeptical mm-hmm. of them. That's just being honest.
They do that with Paul.
And they are ostracized by their family. Mm-hmm. And what you are seeing, there's 2 phenomena I'd like to share with you that we're hearing anecdotally from people that work in the Middle East. And I had it happen to me. Uh-huh. And that is Muslims are having what we call a Jesus dream. This sounds kind of like something out of a movie, but it is real.
Right.
And there are just millions of Muslims that will, when you get to know them, will tell you that they have been visited by Jesus in a dream, in a vivid, almost real experience with Jesus.
Wow.
And I've heard one person describe him as he appeared in my window. Mm-hmm. He appeared at the foot of my bed. I was riding with a Muslim, very nice man, Muslim taxi driver who drove me to Petra. He was driving me to Petra in Jordan. Yeah. And he wanted to talk about religion. And he was asking me a lot of questions. And I was telling him, he knew I was a Christian. And so he wanted to talk about Christianity. And he was so friendly. He was saying, am I offending you with what I'm saying? I'm saying, no. I said, I don't agree with you, but you're not offending me. I said, in America, we try to learn to disagree without being offended in our country. We don't always accomplish that, but we try. Right. I said, you believe what you want to believe. I'm going to definitely believe in Christianity. And then as we kind of got to know each other a little bit better, he started telling me about a dream he had involving a personal encounter with Jesus, and where Jesus came up and hugged him, said, I love you. Mm-hmm. And that is a common phenomenon among well-intentioned Muslims over there. Wow. Mm. And what you're seeing, and I've also heard a lot of stories of because of the worldly pressures of a Muslim converting to Islam. Mm-hmm. It's particularly in the Middle East. It'd be hard enough if they did it here in the United States with family and friends, but over there, and In some countries, you are registered by your family's religion. And but you're seeing the second phenomenon that you're seeing, and that Jesus dream phenomenon is all over the middle. I've talked to pastors who work over there and say, yeah, that is a real thing. It's happening.
Yeah. Wow.
And it's been happening for a couple of decades now. The second is late life conversions. A lot of Muslims are, quietly seeing the truth. It may be because of the Jesus dream.
Right.
It may be because of the violence associated with radical Islam, and they don't see violence associated with Christianity. They see peace and love. They don't see perfection, but they see peace and love. And they study Jesus. Even in Islam, Jesus is held up at high regard. Yeah. They see Christianity at work. They see a free clinic in their neighborhood in Baghdad. They see Christians in America and England rebuilding small businesses in Nineveh. They see we built a soccer field in outside the refugee camp in Kurdistan, where the Christians and Christians and Muslim teenagers could play soccer together instead of fighting with each other.
Yeah.
And they're in this camp, and they're bored, and that's easy opportunity for radicalization, and they're different from one another.
Yeah.
Where have we heard that before? They look differently. Where have we heard that before?
Exactly.
So we put them on a soccer field, and now friendships are emerging.
Yeah.
For a relatively small financial donation. And so they're seeing the love in action, and as they get into their 60s and 70s, they're accepting Christ, and they're willing to take the chance, in their later years. So that's the second phenomenon you're starting to see. I've heard a few stories about that. So there's no doubt. I once asked my pastor. I said to my pastor, I said, Bob, his name's Bob. I said, why is the book of Revelation in the Bible? Because all it does is create controversy. And he said it's there because it's to remind us there's going to be struggle, and that there's going to be a victory.
Right.
And that's the two reasons for it.
Yeah.
And so we know as Christians there's going to be struggle and there's going to be a victory. And
that's right.
The book of Revelation emphasizes that in a very very graphic way.
Yeah. That's right.
And so we're going to win.
Yeah,
we're going to win.
Right. That's right.
The game may not go the way we expect it to, but we're going to win.
Yeah, what I like is the fact that you're doing a ministry with, not only are you seeing, it's a Christian ministry, so it's not just meeting a practical need, it's not just helping to rebuild lives of people, but it's going much further than that. It's doing like Philemon. You remember when Onesimus, the slave, ran away from him, and then Paul led him to Christ. There's a little verse there in that book, in the 15th verse, I think it is, that he says, you lost him for a little while, but now he's yours forever because he gave his life to Christ. He's a brother now, no longer a slave.
Yeah.
And
that's
I've been
dwelling on great point. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been dwelling on that. And that's the issue, is that in the big long game, it's not just putting clothes and giving shelter, which is exactly what they need practically, but it's giving them the spiritual bread of life. It's giving them the life that we have found in Christ. And so I look at it as like what an incredible ministry. I mean, and I think that here's a guy from Georgia that there you were, wondering where God was going to send you and go through law school, and George Bush appoints you as a U.S. attorney, and you get all of those benefits, and then all that builds the credibility. But now you get the place where you're having an impact in a ministry that's changing lives on a country and in a place where it's desperately needed, but it's close to the heart of God. So I love the story, the whole story of what God's doing. I love it, Matt. Hey, if you'd like to watch other videos and other podcasts, we have them available for you, and you can find them right here. And then on top of that, I really want you to subscribe. You can hit that button right there. We can stay connected. It'd be a big benefit for both of us. So be sure to hit the button to subscribe.